This is a message to all of the Unification Church members, the followers and students of Mother Hak-Ja-Han Moon and Father Sum Young Moon that you've perhaps worked with. Some of the pastors, thousands and thousands of pastors, have received the blessing from this couple that God has sent. And when Father Moon talked about his relationship with Jesus Christ Easter Sunday morning and gave him this commission to go forward to do this great work. Now, Mother Moon is in prison, incarcerated. And I know how some of you may feel right now. You cannot help but feel sad or upset or perhaps even blaming yourself for something maybe you have said or done spiritually, or not enough witnessing or work that caused this to happen. What I want to do today is bring you hope, understanding. And the question we all have to ask ourselves, do you have, or do we have, a divine relationship with God? As you know, Father Moon taught many, many years on the value and the importance of the divine principle. How it's so necessary that we learn how to live this principle in our life and teach it to others. And he summed it up by saying, living for the sake of others at all times, not sometime. And I want to remind you of two stories. One is biblical, and the other one is a folklore that in the Black community have been talking about this, the love of a mother, how much suffering they have gone through in their life to give life to others. And the first one I want to talk about is Jesus at the Last Supper, when he proclaimed that someone here will betray me tonight. And all of the disciples asked, Lord, is it I? And the three main disciples, Peter, James, and John, when Jesus asked, stay with me and pray with me. And each time Jesus came from his prayer, they was asleep. And not one of those disciples that Jesus had been working with for at least 3 years that we know of, that's recorded, not one had the courage or the love or the commitment or the faith to go to court with Jesus and testify in Jesus' behalf. But not only testify, there was not one who could say, no, do not accuse him, Jesus Christ. Accuse me. I'm the one that will take the blame for whatever you may accuse him of. Let him go. Not one of the disciples was at Jesus' execution on the cross. We want to glorify it and say, make it feel so holy by saying it's crucifixion, but it was execution. That's the real thing. Not one was there to testify to the governor, please let him go. And in fact, his naysayers were saying, crucify him, kill him, and let Barabbas go. Let the sinner go, while the one who come to take away your sins, kill him. And then we justify, oh, it was God's will. God's will is God's love and God's divine grace and mercy working in all of us. I cannot know every moment what is God's will, but the question is, do you have that kind of love and faith in God as you would have in your leader who have taught us all of these years. And is there anyone that would say, it's me, I will take the blame? The folk story that I want to share with you is there was a story of a young man in the community who was accused of murder. And he was somewhere else, and his mother knew he wasn't there. He didn't commit the crime. And they had again and again 3 trials, and it failed each one. And finally, he was put up for death, and he was going to be hung. And in that village, they had a custom that every time someone would be hung, they would ring the bell at the church, at the courthouse. I'm not sorry, not the church. The courthouse had a bell on top of it. And they would ring that bell. And if the bell didn't ring, even if the judge or the jury had found this person guilty, if the bell didn't ring, it was a sign that this person should be set free. And one of the old men, seniors, reminded the judge of this fact. And that mother heard that was a saying, and she had forgot about it. But when she heard about that, she got on her knees and she prayed. And she felt, I know my son is innocent, but I'm old, and I don't have much long here on the earth anyway. I will take his place. So what she did, she got up early that morning, the morning of the crucifixion, on the morning of her son was going to be hung. And she went to that place and crawled up in the loft where the bell was. She took her time and she climbed that ladder. And as she could hear the crowd gathering down below, she began to make her way to that big bell. And she took her scarf and wrapped it around the ball inside that bell. And she took herself and she wrapped herself around that bell. And as the executioner was ready to take on that mission, he said, now, before this man is hung, we must ring the bell. And they went to ring the bell, and they pulled, and the bell didn't ring. And as the bell went from side to side, the mother was holding on to that bell, and her ribs began to crack, and her shoulders began to bleed, and her nose hit was hitting the front, and as they tried, and they were bleeding from her head and from her nose, and she kept holding on to it, and kept pulling the bell. Something is wrong. And finally, her hands were so scarred up and knuckles was bleeding, she just kept on holding onto that bell. And finally, someone hollered, the bell didn't ring. You must let him go. And the executioner says, that's the rule. And as soon as the mother heard that her son was set free, she dropped, she had no more strength, and she fell down from that bell, down on the ground, bleeding. And her son looked and said, Mama, why did you do that? She said, because I knew you were innocent, and I was willing to take the blame. Now, son, I'm going home. to be with my Father. And you go home. Even though I'm not there, you go home. And I'll see you later. And the mother died. True Mother Moon have this kind of heart. This is the reason why she's incarcerated. She's taking the blame for what her children have done. The movement itself, someone have to say, it's me. I got this. So I'm not saying that any one of us here is qualified to do such a thing. But I just want to give you hope and let you know this, and this is my conclusion. If you understand a divine relationship with God, and you have a divine relationship with God, and you have a divine principle love relationship with the universe, keep hope. Understand, this is just a process of being in this position of world salvation. We stand and set ourselves apart, all of us, pastors, bishops, leaders, preachers, teachers, those who are working for God. Every one of us will have to go through some trial. Just to say, oh, I'm with this and I'm great, it's nothing going to happen to me and everything is going to be smooth, that's impossible. That's impossible. Because the world isn't saved yet. Until that happens, we cannot enjoy or live a life of, I got all the money we need and I'll work with this church as long as you give me 6 figures or this and that the money. I have to have this kind of money to be a pastor and you have to pay me to be the secretary, whatever. If you have that attitude, your desire for money and success is greater than your desire of love and care. At this time, let us all suffer a little bit, sacrifice a little bit. At least something as an offering for Mother Moon's situation. And it'll pay off. God sees and hears everything. No matter what we say or do, we are representing God's people. Don't you dare say you're chosen and you're not ready to give up your life for that chosen position. Like the disciples, you can't run away. You can't think of yourself. We have to go forward with this situation. Never forget who we are. Love conquers all. That's where we have to go with this. I love you.